When it comes to leading social change, there are only 4 shifts that you need to remember to lead successful, that is, sustainable, transformation change efforts. We refer to such shifts as the Universal Change Framework. Let's discuss. Welcome to another episode of All Things OD, where I'm here to help you offer more, be more, and live more. Whether you're serving as an OD practitioner, change management professional, or business transformation consultant. I'm your host, Randall Scott, and it's great to be with you here today. As mentioned, in today's episode, you're going to learn about the Universal Change Framework and the 4 key shifts to succeed with leading any social change initiative. But before we begin, I want to let you know about a new flagship course that we're offering called Leading Through Complexity. This course is an 8-week, online, action learning-based course that will help you learn how to lead transformational change efforts in less time with less resistance, and that will sustain over time. Our next cohort is forming now, and seats are limited. So if you're interested in changing the way that change is done, visit our website at henosispartners.com/LTC, or if you're watching on YouTube, simply click on the link in the description below. All right, let's jump in. So we begin by providing you an overview of what I refer to as the Universal Change Framework. And the context that we're assuming here is that we're looking to help facilitate solving a complex adaptive challenge. This could be a challenge in your organization, in the community or sector that you're working in, or perhaps you're trying to address a broader wicked problem of humanity, like poverty or homelessness, or providing sustainable access to food and water sources. Whatever your particular context is, whatever complex adaptive challenge that you're looking to solve, the Universal Change Framework applies. And the Universal Change Framework is comprised of 4 major shifts. The first shift is to establish a shared understanding of what the underlying issues are of the complex adaptive challenge. And we begin with this step because often you're bringing together a very diverse group of individuals who have different perspectives and points of view, different lived histories. And so step number 1 in trying to solve or facilitate solving a complex adaptive challenge is to create a shared understanding amongst those key stakeholders on what the underlying issues are, and doing that from a whole system perspective. From there, we then look to create a shared intention on where to go. This step is about creating a common goal on how to approach solving the complex adaptive challenge. In creating shared understanding and shared intention, we then look to align actions, both individually and collectively. That is, to get all key stakeholders rowing in the same direction. And finally, the 4th shift in helping to facilitate solving a complex adaptive challenge is to work to transform relations all along the way. So we're looking to establish new relations, deepen existing relations, and restore fractured relations. So collectively then, we refer to these 4 shifts as the Universal Change Framework. And so let's learn next on how to initiate each of these 4 shifts. All right, so first we look at how to create a shared understanding. And there are a number of key steps that you can follow to doing this in both an effective and efficient way. The approach that I have found to be effective is to start by collecting a number of stories and narratives, referred to as narrative harvesting or the discipline of participative narrative inquiry, and doing that from a diverse group of key stakeholders on the current state or disposition of the system. Typically, with this step, you're looking to collect at least 30 stories and preferably well over 100 if you're able to. From there, we look to convene a group of these highly diverse key stakeholders to participate in a dialogic-based workshop to discuss the harvested stories. And the goal here is to get individuals to expose their seeing, thinking, acting, and feeling, to share their perspectives, their thoughts, and their point of views as it relates to these stories. And in preparation for the workshop, you first would distribute a sanitized yet raw summary of all the stories that you've collected and providing that as a pre-read document 1 to 2 weeks prior to the event. This represents the beginnings of creating the shared understanding amongst all the key stakeholders. And then during the workshop, you initiate multiple rounds of both breakout group and plenary group sense-making activities to get stakeholders to assess what the stories collectively mean. It is during these activities that we have the stakeholders summarize the key issues, patterns, and themes that they're observing in the provided story pack. And finally, we're coaching the group to converge on which of the stories they want more of, that is, which stories they want to amplify, and then which stories do they want less of, or which stories to dampen. And as part of this, we're looking to have the group determine or articulate a preferred or desired direction of travel to guide subsequent change efforts. So performing these 5 steps will help you create the shared understanding that's needed to transition to the next phase or next shift, which is about creating shared intention. Okay, so with our precondition of having first established a shared understanding amongst the key stakeholders of what the underlying issues are, we can then proceed to help facilitate the group get to a point of articulating a shared intention. And the key steps to creating a shared intention amongst this diverse group of stakeholders is to initiate a follow the energy activity, such as an open space technology event, to get key stakeholders to identify and discuss possible solutions to address the complex adaptive challenge that people have come together to help solve for. Effectively, what we're trying to do here is to encourage a stakeholder-derived change agenda with different sub-teams or stations for individuals to then brainstorm novel ideas on improvement efforts. And once teams have had enough time to brainstorm for these novel ideas, we then have each station identify a spokesperson to share with the broader group what their sub-team's proposal was to help address the complex challenge. And then finally, you would help facilitate conducting 1 or more rounds of multi-voting to have the broader group select the best interventions to address the complex challenge. And as part of this, we would also be looking to identify the initiative leaders and volunteers to assist. I have found the open space technology large group process approach to be very effective in getting large groups of key stakeholders to self-identify possible solutions, and doing this in a follow the energy way that results in greater engagement, enthusiasm, long-term commitment, and most importantly, ownership. So performing these 3 steps will help you create a shared intention of where to go. Next, we look to create aligned actions. And as with creating a shared understanding and a shared intention, there are key steps that we can follow to help create aligned actions, both individually and collectively. In the prior step of establishing a shared intention, we identified a number of potential interventions that represent strategic options for self-organized teams to begin experimenting and role modeling the new. And such options do reflect or can reflect both individual and collective commitments, and this is fine. The goal for you as the change agent, the change leader, is simply to ensure that all improvement efforts are rowing in the same direction. That is, they're all rowing towards achieving or helping solve for the complex adaptive challenge that everyone has come together to help solve for. Now, to ensure that you're successful in solving for the complex challenge, you want to establish a light portfolio management approach to governing the broader change agenda of initiatives. And this includes educating leadership on their role and how to effectively support dialogic-based change work. As part of this portfolio management approach, you would periodically want to convene all initiative team leads to share their progress, share what they're learning, and if they need any resources to overcome any obstacles that they may be encountering. And finally, based on the experimental results that we see, we determine which initiatives should be amplified and perhaps even scaled further across the enterprise. And we also identify those initiatives that should be dampened, that should be closed down, while celebrating the learnings that emerged from the efforts. So these actions collectively of ensuring that the improvement efforts are rowing in the same direction, that you have established a light portfolio management approach, and that you periodically convene teams to come together and share what they are learning, these steps will go a long way towards both creating and maintaining aligned actions as you go. And all along the way, we're looking to transform relations. We're looking to establish new relations, deepen existing relations, and restore fractured relations. And there are a number of tactics that we can leverage to help transform such relations, such as ensuring that all key stakeholders that have been assembled have an opportunity to have their voice heard. Simply giving people an opportunity to share their voice, their perspectives, point of views, will go a long way towards establishing relations amongst and between all the key stakeholders. In addition to that, we want to intentionally design a variety of workshop activities to get stakeholders to reveal their underlying assumptions, their cognitive biases, and limiting beliefs. And we're wanting to do this to have the broader group challenge one another, challenge each person's assumptions, biases, and beliefs, to get people to engage in self-reflection in the moment, and possibly even to revise their assumptions, their biases, and beliefs based on what they're hearing and what they're learning in the moment. Another thing that we can do is to be creative with sequencing workshop activities to enable key stakeholders to learn from one another, such as creating paired exercises like an empathy walk, and getting individuals to come together in small group exercises where they'll have an opportunity to share their perspectives and points of view, and even schedule activities where individuals can engage in personal reflection on what's emerging from the field. And finally, when engaging others, we want to be intentional on who we pair together or when comprising a subgroup. And the guidance here is simply to maximize diverse interactions, to spur innovation, to spur whole systems thinking, and to catalyze serendipity. To transform relations amongst the key stakeholders represents often the most enduring aspect of performing all shifts of the universal change framework. So, in summary, these are the 4 shifts that comprise the universal change framework. First, we look to establish a shared understanding of what the underlying issues are of the complex challenge that we're looking to solve for. Then we create a shared intention on where to go. And with creating a shared understanding and shared intention, it enables us to create aligned actions both individually and collectively. And as we discussed, we're looking to transform relations all along the way. Now, while all 4 shifts are necessary and needed, not all shifts are created equal. And so when you're looking to help solve a complex adaptive challenge in your context, my guidance to you would be to spend a full 70% of your time and the time of those that you convene to create a shared understanding of what those underlying issues are. And the reason that we want to do this is because if you've done this right, you're bringing together a very diverse group of individuals with remarkably different perspectives and points of view. And to make any meaningful progress, that is, to have any kind of hope of achieving or solving for your complex challenge, it first requires that those that have been convened have a shared understanding of the various perspectives and points of view that make up the broader system. So it's for this reason that we spend 70% of our time creating that shared understanding. We then spend the next 20% of our time creating the shared intention of where to go. Creating a shared intention will be far easier to do if we've spent all of this upfront time in first creating the shared understanding. And finally, we spend the remaining 10% of our time aligning actions, both individual actions and collective actions, to bring forth the new. And again, all along the way, we're looking to transform relations. We're looking to do that while we're creating this shared understanding. We're looking to transform relations while we're creating this intention. And we're looking to transform relations while aligning of future state actions. I have found these percentage allocations to be a good heuristic to use to dramatically increase your odds of leading a successful transformation change effort. And so I would encourage you to adopt the same practice when solving challenges within your context. Last, we discuss why the Universal Change Framework actually works. The first underlying reason of why the Universal Change Framework works is because the Universal Change Framework represents a temporal-based constraint, where the sequence of activity matters. So that sequence of creating a shared understanding, followed by shared intention, followed by aligning of actions, and then transforming relations all along the way, it's that sequence of activity that enables us to be successful with our change efforts. I often refer to this as the secret is in the sequence. Another reason of why the Universal Change Framework works comes from knowing that in change and transformation efforts that have failed, it's often because they did not afford the opportunity to key stakeholders to create that shared understanding of both the underlying issues and how best to solve them. And so by going the other way, that is, in providing such opportunity, we mitigate the possibility of failing with our transformation effort. Another reason why the Universal Change Framework works is because we spend 70% of our time establishing that shared understanding, 20% creating a shared intention, and 10% aligning of actions. Emphasizing these shifts with these time allocations ensure a minimum baseline trust is established amongst the key stakeholder group to generate the needed amount of engagement, enthusiasm, commitment, and follow-on ownership. And finally, the Universal Change Framework works because the dialogic-based container that we've created serves as a disrupting constraint, producing a possibility space of interlocking interdependencies and dynamic information flows. And it is from this dynamic mix of energy, matter, and information flows that transformative change is possible. Well, that's it for this episode. I hope you found the content in this episode helpful. Please share your comments below, and if you like this video, hit the subscribe button and click the bell to get notified of all future weekly episodes. Also, don't forget about our upcoming course, Leading Through Complexity. If you're interested in participating in our next cohort, you can register on our website at henosispartners.com/LTC, or if you're watching on YouTube, simply click on the link in the description below. Thanks again for tuning in, and we'll see you on the next episode.